Alright, welcome back to the third installment of the tier list series, where we've been rating midfielders, defenders and forwards in a tier list format to make it easy for you to consume how we are thinking about each of the possible players on each of these positions as the preseason kind of gets underway. We still have very limited information, just starting match sims now. Some of the teams are obviously no preseason games and still quite early on. Already from the Defender series, Whitfield's gone down as one that sits out in my mind, but it at least gives us a really good baseline understanding of where people are kind of thinking about each of these players and where you should be considering them or why you should or shouldn't be considering them as we kind of go into the 2021 season. So let's just get it underway straight away. What we've done is poll the users over at the Supercoach Jords Discord. If you're not following Supercoach Jords on YouTube already, some of the best Supercoach content you'll get this preseason will go a long way to helping you secure your best finish ever. But we do speak a lot of Supercoach over there, as well as participate in things like this. So I've lent on them and their expert advice to help kind of rate over all these players, and we're going to go through them right now. Now, one thing to be wary of, I guess, as we go through this, forward line's pretty rough this year. It's pretty rough, and it's not nearly as deep as some of the other lines. So as I put some of these names out, I almost feel embarrassed I included them. I feel embarrassed they've been rated, and I'm just going to try and maybe get a few of them out in bunches so I can speak much less about them. All right, so let's start from the bottom. Interestingly enough, no one got a bust, so I guess the list wasn't too deep. No one got a bust rating overall, but the bottom four, so at the very bottom, at his new club, Jack Higgins, a little bit interesting actually. You would have thought maybe new club, new opportunity, there's a chance for him to move up these ratings a bit, but he's actually finished below some of the more speculative guys, which is very interesting. I mean, I think will not finish top 6 is an appropriate rating, but it's just weird that he's the bottom of the list compared to some of the others. Following up is also someone else at a new club, Jaden Stevenson. Don't even know why he got included in the list, to be honest. I guess we're doing people over 350 because someone like Caldwell would be more relevant than Stevenson in my mind. He probably should be down here, but yeah, someone threw his name out, I guess. Robbie Gray, this one is actually a real surprise. He's close to the bottom. He's someone that has been a top 6 performer in prior years, but he's getting on in age, and it does look like they're trying to find other bodies to get in the midfield rather than Robbie Gray, so he's going to have that healthy split of mid-forward time, which makes it pretty unlikely that he's finishing in the top 6 this year. I mean, is he third bottom in my list? No way, but hey. Alright, after him is... Oh, where is he? There he is, Cam Rayner, right at the top. I think I accidentally included him in the poll twice, spelled his name wrong, and then I couldn't find him in the tier list. So, Rayner's another one that is embarrassing to be on this list. He was at 25% of Brisbane Lions centre bounce attendances last year, still couldn't score well, averaged like 10 touches a game, even in the reduced format. That's awful. His scores were completely dependent on kicking goals. If he gets more mid time, which he won't, he doesn't have the tank, he's not good enough, and honestly, there's no way he's even getting close to top 15. He'd be a bust for me, but sure, go for it, I guess. Alright, let's bang out a few more. So above him we have Charlie Dixon, we have Jack Martin, and we have where is he? Jordan De Goey as the next three. Of those, I guess the one that's kind of surprising is De Goey. Is one that people have talked up a lot, but there's a fair bit of uncertainty around De Goey, whether or not he actually does do that Petrarca Martin style breakout and get enough midfield time and be able to take his game to the next level, or does he end up in jail? I feel like he's someone that could end up top 6, but he could easily be a bust as well. Very, very high risk pick. Martin had a good year last year, but there's no indication really that he's going into the midfield more, especially with Zach Williams coming on and Walsh talking more about going inside mid. So maybe Jack gets more outside mid time, but is that really going to help his scoring? Probably not. So yeah, can't see that working out well. And then Dixon, I mean, we generally have a rule, no premium tall forwards, so it makes a lot of sense to rate him outside the top 6. To round out all those that are finishing in this C tier, we have 3 more. We have Tom Phillips, one that's got a lot of hype and attention this year at a new club. Kyle Langford and Chad Wingard. Okay. So I feel like Wingard's been done done hard by. He actually showed some real good signs when he was in the midfield last year. There's a good chance that Hawthorn could use him more there this year as well. And if he does, definitely someone that could finish in the top 6. Has the ceiling, has the talent. It's just a matter of whether or not he gets the right role, and he probably won't. But I feel like, once again, he's someone that maybe could be a top 6, even though it's probably more unlikely than likely that he will be. Langford, what can you say about Langford? There's no reason why he should finish top 6. He has developed and is continuing to develop, even though it's his 7th year in the system. He's added endurance and strength base, has really done wonders in terms of cementing him in Essendon's best 22, but he's going to continue to play the wing to half forward role, and it doesn't really seem like he's actually going to be someone that's used on the ball as much as some of the other Essendon midfielders. So there's just very, very, very low likelihood that he ever actually pushes up to the top 6. Phillips moving from Collingwood to Hawthorn. I don't think that added opportunity is what's stopping Phillips from becoming a top 6 forward. I just don't think he's good enough. He's a bit of a butcher. I like him being in C tier. I don't think he deserves to be any good enough. All right, moving on to B tier. Toby Green, someone at the bottom of B tier, as well as Sidebottom and Connor Rozee. Now, we mentioned that some of the match sims have started to kind of kick off. I was a little bit slow on recording this one. And Rozee is one of those that has shone early, kicked 6 goals in the forward line while he was playing, I guess, in between forward and midfield. And what we've seen is there are some promising signs with Rozee, especially when he gets inside mid-time. It could do wonders for his scoring. He seems to have the talent and the potential, and he adds something different to Port's midfield, given some of the speed and pace that he can bring around the ball, which really complements Boak, Wines, Rockcliffe, that aren't exactly known to be the speediest bunch. But kicking 6 goals in a match sim kind of makes me think that they'd still like to have him in the forward line. But they have done things like bring on Fantasia as well, which should vary out both him and Butters, who we'll talk about later. Green is someone that, if he was playing full-time midfield, would finish top 6 every single year as long as he could keep on the park. But Green both has injury history, suspension history, and it seems to be that the preferred position for him is more forward time than mid time. So, yeah, he could finish top 6, but a lot of things would have to fall the right way. And Sidebottom impressed a lot of people last year, kind of almost being like Dusty Light, I guess, a little bit in the Richmond midfield, and seemed to be taking some of Martin's minutes up, just as Martin rested forward. He's someone that could continue to improve this year, but he was still very inconsistent, very up and down with his scoring. He showed flashes, but the consistency just didn't seem to be there that he could really push into strong top 6 contention. All right, next up we have Zorko, Butters, and Heeney. So, interesting here, Zorko has been pretty consistent, low 100s, high 90s scorers for years now, and has really... He's very underrated as a player. He's won a lot of best and fairest at the Brisbane Lions, I believe, and it's just a real leader of the club. He is someone that's getting on in age, though, and the upside really isn't there, so I can see why people are a bit hesitant on him. He also has history of really dropping some stinkers, especially if tagged or given any real attention, and so he's someone that can get cheaper throughout the year. So he's one of those players that, even though he may not finish top 6 for the year, that you might want to pick him up halfway through when he drops in price a lot and then, comes home pretty well. Butters, like Rozee, is someone that could thrive with a lot more midfield opportunity, but he's competing with Rozee, and the Port Adelaide situation is still a bit up and down, and Rosee's 100k cheaper, so I'm not really sure why you would pick Butters over Rozee unless you're really sure that he was getting there. And then finally, Heeney, someone that I really like. A lot of people that have played Supercoach for a while really have a fond soft spot for Heeney. The belief that he would be like a perennial top 6 S tier forward, lock him in every year, just hasn't quite got there. The promise of midfield minutes have never eventuated, and he's just so strong as that medium forward, half forward type player that's where the Swans want to play him. I think even when Buddy's fit, a lot of people were thinking, well, Buddy will get fit, They won't rely on Heeney in the forward line as much. He can come up the ground, and we just haven't seen that. And Buddy's probably going to be injury prone for most of the year anyway. I think the interesting thing is, even though he will spend all his time forward, there's actually a chance that he could still go 95 to 100 in that position. He's just that good. But maybe he's a wait and see. I like him as a pick this year, but I don't think I have the cojones to start him. Above Heeney, we've got two more in the B tier. So we've got Walters and Hawkins. And once again, like Heeney, they're kind of, and a little bit like Zorko as well, these are all players that have finished top 6 as forwards in the past. Walters is someone that I would avoid at all costs. I might do a video on this if you're interested, which is talking about how the changes to the quarters, as well as some of the rule changes, interchange changes, are going to affect different types of players. One thing I believe from some of the reading I've done is that calf injuries are more likely to occur with the fatigue situation you're going to arrive at, where you've gone back to full quarters and you've got less rotations. So players over 30 with calf history, which is already like a career-ending injury for a lot of footballers anyway, are complete no-goes, and Walters is the poster child for this type of injury. I would be so shocked to see him get through a full year, even though he does have great scoring potential. And Tom Hawkins was by far and away the best forward last year, and I'm not talking about just in Supercoach, I'm talking football full stop. If there was an MVP award last year, like Hawkins had a real stake to claim that. He was phenomenal, not only being one of the best goal kickers, but then goal assists, being able to bring his team into it. But can he kind of back that up for a third year where he does this really good Supercoach scoring? And I think a lot of people believe probably not. Key position forwards aren't terribly consistent when it comes to Supercoach. The effects of Cameron coming in and how that changes the dynamics in the forward line is a little bit unknown as well. And just given how well Hawkins played last year, the likelihood that he can back it up and do the exact same is pretty low. So I can understand why he's someone that people think could finish there, but look, it's not a should. It's definitely not a should. But I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him at the end. It's just someone that's so hard to bank on. So 5 players left, and interestingly, there's just one that goes into the A tier. He stands alone, Sidebottom. And what an interesting selection Sidebottom could be. He's obviously an older player now, which always gives me a little bit of concern. But Sidebottom really had some great scores last year that was mixed between him getting suspended for doing some funny business and then going home early, I think because of the birth of his kid, but I may have that wrong. So he didn't actually end up playing a lot last year, but has a really high score because of it. The interesting thing is with Treloar going, Pendlebury aging, and none of the Collingwood mids that are younger really having come through to the extent that maybe Collingwood would have hoped, you could see Sidebottom play inside a little bit more than what he historically has done. He scores great playing purely outside. He's very damaging, especially around the goal front, but he could potentially raise his average even more by getting inside minutes. The question is, I don't think that's Collingwood's preferred position. I think they want to keep him on the outside and they want to put different players on the inside and will only go to that as a last resort. So the question is, will Collingwood actually start him as an inside or, a split inside-outside player from round 1? And I don't think they will. I think they're going to try different things. And if that fails, Sidebottom will then start to increase his centre-back attendances. You'll be able to see that trend and jump on him later on in the year. So I don't think he's someone that you necessarily want to start, but top of the watch list because you might be able to get him at a good price as he moves into a better position as the year goes on. All right, and now rating the top 4. At the bottom of the top 4 is Patrick Dangerfield. It feels weird to have 3 other forwards listed above Patrick Dangerfield. He's that good. He's got me that flustered. Danger has been a perennial top scorer in Supercoach. He is amazing. He is both great to watch and a great player and a great scorer. But he's had an injury-affected preseason. Cats have given out some interesting signs around resting players throughout the year. They think their list is constructed in a way, especially with their age profile, that they probably both have to, even though they haven't said that. But they will try and rest these players throughout the year. And Dangerfield is someone that you could see maybe just get full game rests once or twice a year. I think going back to full quarters and having the shorter rotations obviously helps someone like him because as their core group of midfielders need to rest, he's someone that can go forward, but then also cover for some of those other midfielders as well, and maybe pick up some additional mid minutes. So yeah, I think a lot of people would really be looking at studying him if he didn't have that injured preseason, but he did. So bottom of S tier. Above him is Dustin Martin. Once again, a phenomenal player. Imagine being able to start both Martin and Dangerfield, especially a few years ago in your forward line. Oh, love it. I think there were a couple of years where we might have been able to. Martin is very likely to finish top 6. He's done so the last few years. But he does seem to be playing forward more. And we are starting to see, I guess, a downward trend in his scores. So I think there's a high likelihood that he doesn't score as well as he did last year and continues to trend down a little bit. The other thing is Martin always seems to start slowly and then come home really strong, especially towards the finals. So he's someone that you don't really need to start in Supercoach, even though he is pretty safe as far as picks go. Coming in at runner-up second place is Josh Dunkley. A surprise to many, no doubt, but a huge favourite on George's Discord. I can see the concern with Dunkley. He is someone that should be affected negatively by Treloar joining the club. He was already not getting enough midfield time last year, and then Treloar just kind of puts him another rank down on the ladder of Dogs midfielders. I was looking for a much better analogy, and it just couldn't come to me. So I think the positives are that we've already seen what Dunkley looks like with not enough midfield time last year, and he's kind of already priced that floor. But there is upside. McRae, Libba, Bont, they all were effectively had full years. Oh, and Baslenka as well. All of them didn't cop an injury at all last year. They all played through the full season. And you're adding Treloar now into the mix as well. I think the likelihood that all of them stay fit above Dunkley for the whole year is pretty low, which should help out Dunkley. And he was only getting, I think, like 25% of CBAs anyway, which is quite low, 1 in 4. I think there's a good chance that they try and keep him at that. If they're trying to keep him happy, not have him, continue to try and leave for more opportunity elsewhere, I think there's like a decent chance that he actually maintains or even improves that a little bit. So I think he's priced at his floor. I think there's a lot of upside. Yes, he could go backwards a little bit as well, but great age profile, great injury history, someone that you should really be heavily considering in your starting squad. And then at the top, a surprise to me, I guess, in Rowan Marshall. And clearly the highest rated player, highest rated forward. Marshall is once again a little bit like Dunkley in the sense that we probably saw his floor last year, and so there's a little bit of value in his price, which you don't get in some of the others. The other really important thing with Marshall, of course, is that he has that forward ruck eligibility. With many people, with no playing R3 this year by the looks of things, you're going to have to put your loophole there. Being able to have someone that you can swap in and cover for basically whatever your rucks are, is going to be super valuable, and Marshall, provides something unique over the rest of the field. But does that mean he will finish top 6? Not necessarily. I think the good things are, that we saw his floor last year. Paddy Ryder's not getting any younger, so there's a good chance that Ryder's going to miss more games this year. Marshall's going to be, continue to go back to that number 1 ruck role where we really saw him shine. And if he doesn't, and we kind of get a repeater last year, we saw what his floor was, and it's still good enough to be top 6. So very, very strong pick. And just looking at these top 4, you can actually see why a lot of the teams, especially in George's Discord, are going to have Marshall and Dunkley as their 2 premiums, and that's it. Because Martin you can pick up cheap later. Dangerfield had an interrupted preseason. You can probably pick him up cheaper later. Sidebottom is then maybe the next best option, but has some question marks. And then after that, it's throwing darts at a dartboard. Hawkins could get there. Walters with no injury could get there. Heeney could get there. Zorko could get there. Like Butters and Rosie, maybe. Maybe. Green, if he gets midfield time, could get there. Wingard could get there. And then of these, I don't know. Pretty unlikely that anyone else gets up there, to be honest. But you can see why after these 2, it's actually really hard, because you kind of know that these top 4 are all going to be in your finishing team, and then you've got to find 2 out of the rest. And given there's a solid, 8 to 10 options that all probably have about equal odds of getting to the top 6, do you really want to be taking that gamble in your starting team before the season started? Probably not. You probably want to wait and see who kind of comes out of nowhere, puts their hand up and says, I'm going to be a top 6 forward this year, and you get on the train. Alright, so that's the end of the preseason tier list. If you haven't checked out the midfielders and defenders, we do a pretty comprehensive coverage on them as well. So yeah, thanks for your time. Good luck with your starting teams, and we'll likely do a refresh of these once we've kind of got a little bit more information throughout the preseason, and it'll be interesting to see how some of these options change around and how people's opinions on them change as we get more information. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.